Please welcome him to the stage, Gary Edwards.
Have you got the clicker? No. Thank you very much, Amanda. When I first started public speaking, I did what everyone does. I went to the library and borrowed a book on it. And I remember the first page, it said, in order to be an effective public speaker, you have to be credible, you have to be sincere. If people think you are a con man, they won't believe you. So having been introduced as a lawyer and a magician, I'm not quite sure what to do next. However, I have learnt in the world that being a con man apparently is no exclusion from high office, so I'm willing to give it a go. And I have to apologise for that title, speaking of being a bit of a con man. I mean, change the world and get everything you've ever wanted in life for free. I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure I'm going to be able to deliver on that. That was really just my attempt to get more of you to stick around after Julia left. So it's kind of worked. One thing about that, I find it very interesting that we live in a country where we not only refer to our prime ministers by their first name, but when you say the first name, we know exactly who we mean, don't we? I mean, we've got, for example, we had Gough, we had Bob, we had Paul. We all know who those people are. We had, then there was John, then there was Kevin, then there was Julia. We know these people. And then we had Tony, and then we had Malcolm, and who knows who's going to come next. So I'm not quite sure how that got in there. But Scott and David have talked today about culture change, about mindset change. Julia Gillard has spoken about a whole range of things, but very much about how you negotiate and persuade people. And Margaret Byrne has very clearly spoken about how we communicate. And that's my area. My area is working with organisations and individuals to help them think, communicate and negotiate even better than before. But I'm also a magician. I started doing magic when I was 7 years old, so about 30 years ago. Thank you. Quiet, shush. And a fair while back. I started doing magic when I was about 7 years old, and I've done it as a part-time job, but also as part of my professional life for about a 30-year period. And what is interesting about that is that you learn a lot about how to influence people. And then I've taken that and put that into my professional life. And one of the things I've learned a lot about is the smoke and mirrors. So today I'd like to leave you and send you away with a few ideas on what you can do to achieve that mindset change, the culture change, the conversations, the negotiations that you need to have by explaining a couple of the lessons that I got out of being a magician, a couple of the things that I've learned along the way. So if you'll indulge me, let me just show you something. I've got it right here. As a magician, of course, you have to learn new tricks every now and then. And so we don't have a magic shop here in Adelaide. I went to Melbourne, where my favourite magic shop is. I walked in and I said to the woman who owns the shop, now, by the way, as a measure of the advancement and the equality of women, there is no greater indicator than that a woman in Australia now owns a magic shop. Forget female prime ministers, forget female governor-generals. Every magic shop in the world is owned by a dorky guy doing card tricks. There is one woman in Australia that owns a magic shop. That is a sign of progress. Her name is Christina. I said to Christina, do you have that trick where the magician shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards? He throws away 1, 2, 3 cards, and he's still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. She said, do you mean the trick where the magician shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards, throws away 1, 2, 3 cards, and still has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards? I said, yes, that's the trick. It's the one where the magician has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. He throws away 1, 2, 3 cards, and he's still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. She said, yes, we do. And she sold it to me. So today I'd like to show you the trick where the magician has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. He throws away 1, 2, 3 cards, and he's still got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know. It doesn't always work. But if you're going to do any sort of presentation, the number one rule as to be a good presenter, as Sharon down here will tell you, is that you've got to know your audience. That's a great rule. There's one problem. You never know the audience. You don't know who you've got when you turn up. So I need to know a little bit more about you. Can I ask you for a little bit of audience participation? You've been sitting there and listening a lot today, so a little bit of audience participation. Can you do it? Yes. Yeah, right. Can you do it? Yes. Okay. Up on the screen up here, or that one over there, So that one or that one, depending on which side you're on. I'm going to put up 3 words, very simple English words, very simple. You just read them out loud all together from top to bottom. Okay, out loud all together from top to bottom. Ready, set, go. Not bad, but I reckon you can be in sync a little more. One more time from top to bottom. Ready, set, go. Excellent. Now, the second one is very similar to the first one. You would have noticed the first one was written in different colours, wasn't it? This time I want you to read out loud from top to bottom, but I don't want you to tell me what the words are. I want you to tell me the colours of the letters. Not the words, but the colours of the letters. Ready, set, go. Yeah. Excuse me, Amanda, where are you? Can I have another audience, please? I think this one's broken. That was a bit of a trick, but you're in the grand final now. You know what to expect. The third one is the same as the second one. Once again, not the words that you see, but the colours of the letters. Ready, set, go. Red, green, blue. Yeah, yellow or blue. You learn a lot about the smoke and mirrors as a magician, and frankly as a lawyer as well. What does smoke and mirrors mean? Well, in magic, smoke hides the reality. It sort of makes things hard to see. And the mirrors, well, it shows you a reflection of what's happening, not what's actually happening. That's the point of the smoke and mirrors. And what I found in business and life generally is there's a lot of smoke and mirrors around. And in the area of equality, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. So how can we cut through some of this? I've got a couple of lessons for you. Here's lesson number 1. Lesson number 1 is this idea of perception is reality is actually wrong. Everyone in the world believes that perception is reality. As a magician, I'm here to tell you that perception is not reality. What you see and what's real is not necessarily the same. Perception is not reality. Perception actually hides reality, but perception drives people's behaviour. So if we're looking to change cultures, we have to look at the perceptions because that will drive people's behaviour. Let me give you a very small example. I was talking to a guy once, about a 29, 30-year-old guy, and he was quite convinced that equality had happened and that we didn't need feminism or anything anymore because it was all done. And I said, but what about the gender pay gap? He said, it doesn't exist. He said, it's illegal. You employ a woman or a man for the job, you've got to pay them the same amount. That's the law, mate. And I went, yeah, but, it happens. And there's a range, and maybe within that range they're being paid a different amount. He said, no, it's illegal. You cannot let her do it anymore. So I got on the phone, rang my brother who's a policeman in Mount Gambier and said, Les, you're out of a job because crime is illegal, no one's going to do it anymore. But if the perception is that equality has happened, then it's going to be a bit of a problem. Now, I know that part of engaging men in equality and domestic violence issues is partly about getting them invested in it by talking about their daughters, their mothers, their sisters, their wives, their girlfriends, by saying this is how it can affect you. Now, I don't have any children, but I do have 2 stepdaughters and now a step-granddaughter, and I get the idea that until we perceive that it affects us, maybe we're not going to be engaged. But I would really like it if guys could get over the idea that I'm only going to be interested in equality if it affects me. It doesn't matter if you're a man, whether you have a wife, you've all got a mother, whether you have daughters, it doesn't matter how it affects the women in your life. This is not an issue about affecting you, it's not an issue about productivity, it's just wrong that we don't have equality. Thank you. So that perception that I'm only interested if I'm involved needs to change. And here's what I think happens in the area of men and women and their perceptions about equality. A lot of men are interested, this is what I found in talking to men, they're interested in equality, they support it and they want it. That's their perception, that's their involvement. They're interested, they support it, they want it, and therefore you get a certain type of behaviour based on those perceptions. But of course in speaking with women, women aren't only interested in it, they're passionate about it. Women don't only support it, they're impatient for it. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And women don't just want it, they fight for it. And when you have that list of words on the right-hand side, you get a different type of behaviour. Would I be right about that? And in my opinion, the only time that we'll get equality, true equality, is when the words in the right-hand column shift over and become part of the left-hand column as well. Because until men get to the point where they're passionate and impatient for it and willing to fight for it, we won't get the behaviour that we need. So perception isn't reality, but it does drive people's behaviour. The second lesson is this one. People hold on to their perception until they feel certain about changing it. People will hold on to their perception. So when we're talking about change, people hang on to their perception until they're sure and comfortable enough to shift. And David, you spoke about people in the part-time or leaving early, that feeling you get, the perception of this is wrong in some way. Let me show you one of the very first magic tricks I ever learnt, and I can prove that people hold on to their perceptions until they feel otherwise. 3 ropes here, ladies and gentlemen, all exactly the same length, correct? Worth a shot. 30 years has never happened, but I'm hopeful. These ropes, the reality is these are not the same length. That might be real, it might be your perception. I'm going to try and convince you that these ropes have equality, that equality exists. Because you see, if I line these up, Irma, if I line these up like this, the top ends are the same length. What more do you want, Irma? Equality exists. I know there's a bit of a problem down the bottom, but we can fix that. What about if I got the top ends and the bottom ends and held them all in about the same way? And this woman sitting over here, now the bottom ends are the same length as well, top ends are the same length. These ropes are equal, aren't they? Yeah, I know. Because your initial perception will persist until you are certain of the alternative. Because if these ropes were truly equal, they would not look like this. They would actually look more like this. You'd have 1 that length, you'd have 2 that length, you'd have 3 all the same length. And that's the thing about perception. Unless people see it in their mind, unless they know what it is, unless they believe it, they don't go for it. They stick to the perception they know. And the perception they know is not always the one that works. Thank you very much. So what can we do about this? Perception drives behaviour. People hang on to their perception until they're willing to shift. What do we need? Lesson number 3. To shift perceptions, we need more, what? Data? Facts? Stats? It's all very useful stuff. It's all very relevant. But what we actually need is more trust. Now, what I do in my real job is I help people build trusted relationships with other people. That is how you get the collaboration that Julia Gillard was talking about. That's how you get people to go, you know what, I used to think this way, but I can actually trust that doing it this way is okay. So there's some interesting things about trust. In a recent Australian survey, people were asked, who would you trust to look after your house while you're away? You know who they said? Kerry Ann Kennelly, for some reason. People were asked, who would you trust to pack your parachute? And they said, good old Koshy. Who would you trust to look after your children? Well, the 15-year-old girl next door, of course, but apart from her, Kate Blanchett. She's been getting a lot of emails about this. Who would you trust with your email password? You know who most Australians said to keep your email password a secret? Who would you trust to back you up in a pub fight? Now, don't laugh. This woman is actually the commander-in-chief of the entire army of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So I'd back her, but that wasn't the real answer. The real answer was good old Rusty. Quite frankly, I'd like to see a fight between the Queen and Russell Crowe. I just reckon she'd win. She's got something in that handbag, that'll whack him with it. Now, what about you? I want you to put your hand up if you are not trustworthy. This is for demonstration purposes only. You are, aren't you? So here's a test. If you've got your mobile phone on you, can you grab it quickly? Just grab your mobile phone. Open your mobile phone for me. Grab your phone. Open the phone. Open the messages or email. Done that? Got your phone open, you've got one of your applications open. Now hand it to the person next to you. Yeah, you don't want to, do you? Right. Okay, you can stop now. You all told me you were trustworthy, but then you look at the other person and you go, I don't know so much. Now, this is the thing about trust. We're getting towards the end. I know we're sort of running a little bit over time, but we're getting towards the end. This is the thing about trust. We often think trust has actually got 4 dimensions to it. We often think that trust is about the person, that it's about the individual person. If I believe you, then I'll believe what you've got to say. But when we have the conversations that we need to have about equality, it's not just about the person, it's also about the proposal. What's the idea? What's the change? People don't just have to trust the person, they need to be able to look at the proposal and say, seems good. They need to be able to trust the process. How will this happen? What will that look like? And they need to be able to trust the payoff. So if you're talking to anyone about an initiative to get to get change happening in any area, particularly in the area of equality, it's not just about whether you're trustworthy, because we all are. It's about what's the proposal, what's the process, what's the payoff. So to finish off, here are 3 things that you can do the next time you have conversations about equality or anything else to help influence people, to move beyond the smoke and mirrors. Here they are. Add positivity, build plausibility, explore possibility. Add positivity, build plausibility, explore possibility. Add positivity, I don't just mean be light and happy and bright and breezy all the time, but people, when they contemplate change, they tend to focus on what they're going to lose, on the negative side. So add the positive, add the positivity of what the change will mean. Build plausibility, that's where the facts come in. We've heard a lot of facts, we've got a lot of data, we've got a lot of stats, that's where that comes in. Build the plausibility of the argument for the change. And then explore possibility. Because how we change and what we do, as Julia Gillard said, is really open for negotiation. By the way, the work of Paul Zak in this area showed that from a neuroscience point of view, when you add positivity, it actually releases oxytocin, which increases empathy between you and the other person. When you build plausibility, when you confront people with the facts, it releases cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and that can have a negative effect if you do it too much. But what it has the positive effect is it increases focus, so people look at what's in front of them. And the third one is that dopamine, the feel-good chemical, when you explore the possibilities, it leaves optimism. And if there was one message from Julia Gillard today, it was that she was extremely optimistic about it. So this one is about the feelings, this one's about the facts, this one's about the future. Let me see if we can put this into effect. I just need a volunteer. I've chosen my volunteer. How are you going, Emma? Stay right where you are, Emma. You don't even need to come up. Stay right where you are. We just need your brain. We are going to be positive, plausible and possible here, Emma. I have 4 cards here. I want you to imagine that they are the 4 jacks. Firstly, can you see them in your mind's eye? Spades, hearts, diamonds, clubs. Because if you can't imagine an alternative future, you're not going to go there. I want you to imagine, Emma, that I'm taking 2 of them out and I'm holding them here in my right hand. Firstly, can you see the 2 cards here in my right hand? Really? Oh, good. That's good. Now, Irma, entirely up to you, the plausibility, the facts part. They might be the 2 red jacks, they might be the 2 black ones. Your choice. Which ones do you see, red or black? You see the red ones. Do you want to change your mind? Not trying to push you into it, I'm just giving you the option. You see the red ones? Everyone can see the red ones? You're about to see something you've never seen before. These invisible cards are going to vanish. Gone. Now we have the black ones, Irma. And again, your choice, but this time we only want to throw away one of them. Throw away the club, throw away the spade. What do you think? Throw away the spade, keep the club. Last chance. Change your mind? Throw away the spade. There it goes. Can everyone see the jack of clubs that I'm holding here in my right hand? I love this bit. As I move my hand, people move their heads. I did this for a really big group once. There were people down the back going, let me see. Oh, yeah, got it. The jack of clubs, Irma. Put it back in here. I'm going to put it back in face up. We've been very positive. We stuck to the facts. So what's the possibility? What's the future that we built? We built a future where the jack of clubs is the only card that's face up in this pack. It's true. Now, Irma, your job was to make some decisions. My job was to bring the cards in this order. That's all I had to do. How did I know to turn this one over? We have actually met before, but we didn't set this up. How did I know to turn that one over? It's really quite simple. It's the only one with that photo on the back. I know. I bought this 10 years ago. I thought, who's she? I've waited a long time to do this trick, Irma. And Irma, because you chose this one, because you threw all the others away, they didn't even bother printing them. Round of applause for Irma, she's very good at this. To wrap up, ladies and gentlemen, here's the issue. I want to challenge you to go away, to have the conversations, to get through the smoke and mirrors, to add positivity, to build plausibility and to explore possibility. The bad news is that life is uncertain, and that when nothing is certain, we tend to stick to what we know. We tend to go into our shells. We can't do that anymore. The good news, to quote Dame Margaret Drabble, who's an English writer, is that when nothing is certain, everything is possible. Thank you for coming today. My name's Gary Edwards. Thanks for having me.